Okay, so just a quick reminder. I think everyone's in their spot. I'll double check it. So I do have the seating chart. That's how I'm gonna take attendance. So if you're not sure if you're in the spot where you signed in, let me know. Yeah, okay. So that's how I'm taking attendance. And I don't want to be calling you by the wrong name. And yeah, call on people. Okay, anyway, let me do a few announcements first, and hopefully you've already seen this information. Tutoring services. So there is the accounting finance tutor lab. It's in Stipes 306. The hours this semester are Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3 p.m. So graduate assistants in the Master of Accountancy program are in there to help you. They also have a virtual Google chat if for some reason you couldn't come in person. There will be a few times when a tutor may not be able to be there. They will put a note on the door. I mean, it's not going to be that often, but you could possibly run into that situation. So I just want to let you know that in advance. But for the most part, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3. As far as the virtual, I do have this posted in the Western Online announcements, so with their hours and their location and everything. So if you forget, you can always refer there. I'm gonna scratch out the finance tutor. Okay. So if you need to connect with them virtually, all you have to do is go into Google Chat, which I was just in there, but now I'm not seeing it. Anyway, so when you're in your Google login for WIU, just go to Google Chat. And then you would start, say, new chat, and then, whoops, new chat, and then just accounting tutor at wiu.edu. So ACCT tutor, TUTOR at wiu.edu, start chat. And that way you can go back and forth or share your screen if you're working on something. But because you're here, I do highly recommend that you just, go into the lab personally. That's a little bit easier. So there's that option available for you for tutoring. Don't forget office hours. I can help as well. So I'm in 420. I have office hours. When do I have office hours? Tuesday, Thursdays afternoon, and then on Wednesday. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I gotta get familiar with my office hours. Anyway, we also still have NAC available. I don't know if you guys utilized this at all before last year, but you can go into NAC to find a tutor to connect with. It's generally a student on campus. So you can arrange like an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting, whatever works out for your schedules. I mean, you would be connected with someone and you would work out those details yourself. Don't wait to the last minute to try to get someone like, I'm working on this homework assignment that's due in 10 minutes and I don't understand it. That's not very helpful. So that's not going to work, but you could set it up in advance. If you did Rockstar Amazing in financial accounting in 201, I know some of you did, you could also sign up through NAC to be a tutor and get paid to do that. So it's also an opportunity for you to earn some money. There's a little training process. I think they do pay you for that time that you have invested in the training, and then you could be a tutor for students in financial accounting. And there might be some other courses that offer tutoring services that you could help with as well. So just throwing it out there, it's there to help you guys if you need a tutor, but also if you did really well in previous courses and wanted to be a tutor, you could also do it that way. And in the announcement, I also have the wiu.joinnac.com. So it's always going to be out there. in Western Online for you to review. Okay, are we processing everything? All right, let's get back to where we left off. Where we left off on Tuesday, quick overview. I've had this up on the screen, right? It's been behind me. I've been looking at it on my computer. Did I have the Tutor Lab stuff up there? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Weston,
Yes.
on September 17 for the career fair, that can be used as one of the career builders, correct?
You betcha. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'm just spacing out my announcements for optimal processing of the information. Okay, processing of information. What did we do the other day? Oh my goodness, it's been so long ago. We talked about manufacturing costs and non-manufacturing costs. So manufacturing costs, I am a company where I'm getting materials, taking those materials and making it into a product that I sell to my customers. They gave us 3 manufacturing costs. Give me those. What did we have? Direct materials, I'm too lazy to write it out. Direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. So direct material, it's gotta be a material. I kept using my water jug for that. You actually have to easily be able to trace it going into that end product. So that's a direct material. Direct labor, that has to be a person, like the wages of that person who's actually hands-on helping to make the product. So it can't be a supervisor. They have to be hands-on, assembly line, helping to make it. And then overhead is everything else associated with that manufacturing site, all those other costs. So rent at the factory, insurance for the factory, supervisors at the factory, the janitor salary at the factory. So those 3 things make up manufacturing costs. You can also use the term product cost. So product cost, you can use that interchangeably with manufacturing. That also tells you where it goes on the financials. Product costs go where? Starts with an I, ends in a Y. Inventory. So product costs go into inventory. So it's a resource of the company, it's an asset. They've got this inventory that they're creating and making, okay? And then when they sell it, it moves into an expense. What's that expense? Cost of goods sold. So product costs, they start out in inventory and then they move to cost of goods sold when they get sold. That's when they get expensed. So cost of goods sold is an expense. Inventory is an asset. Okay, non-manufacturing costs. They had 2 that they specifically talked about. Selling. Yep. Administrative. Okay, these are all your costs outside of the factory. So selling would be things like advertising, salespeople's salaries. Maybe you provide mileage or a vehicle for salespeople, a computer, whatever their costs are. So those would be selling costs. Also shipping items to your customers, shipping the goods to your customers, that would be a selling cost. Administrative costs, your president's salary, your accounting people's salary, the costs of, their office space, whatever they need, HR people, basically everyone kind of outside of the factory. That's going to fall under admin. And then the other term that we can use for non-manufacturing are period costs, okay? So period costs, all that means is that period costs, they get expensed when we have those costs. So if we're paying the CEO's salary for that week or that month, we would just record that to salary expense. If we had insurance that we're paying on administrative offices, we would just record that as insurance expense. And so expenses, everyone remembers So that goes immediately to the income statement. As far as financials, expenses over here, that also is the income statement, the cost of goods sold. Okay, that's everything we did so far. We're gonna add something new. Variable and fixed costs. Let's find that. Oh, here, but let's test ourselves. So they're asking period versus product cost. I always like to see the look of everyone in the class. Don't make eye contact. She's gonna call on you. I'm just kidding. Okay, going through the list, we'll ease into it today. Manufacturing equipment depreciation. So we were talking about equipment in the factory and the depreciation cost on that. Is that gonna be product cost or period cost? Product. So again, that's in the factory and the manufacturing site. So, and it would be specifically part of manufacturing overhead. So because it's in the factory, it's definitely a product cost. What did they ask? What would be considered a period rather than a product cost? Okay, so it's not that one. Property taxes on corporate headquarters. Where would that fall? Corporate headquarters, what's happening at corporate headquarters? Probably more of your administrative things. They don't mention that there's a factory at corporate headquarters. So I would say it's going to be classified here. So that would be one of your period costs. So property taxes on corporate headquarters classified as admin, which would be a period cost. So yay, B is a winner. C, direct material costs. Direct material costs, we know those are product. Okay, not fooled there. Electrical cost to light the production facility. What would we say on that one? Manufacturing overhead, which would be a product cost. So that's product. E, last one, we've got sales commissions. Where would we put sales commissions? Okay, selling, which would be a period cost. So we have more than one correct answer. There we go. Yay. Woo. Give yourself a pat on the back. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Oh, that's all the testing we have for today. Okay, we're gonna move on. More cost classifications. This again is something that we need to know the rest of the semester. A lot of our analysis will be using these concepts. What's a variable cost? What's a fixed cost? And then a mixed cost has a little bit of both. Okay, and it's just referring to how the cost changes in relationship to changes in activity. So the activity that we're going to be talking about is if we increase our sales or if we increase production, what would happen to these costs? And how these costs react to that increase or decrease tells us, let's just do some predictions, okay? So a variable cost, yeah, do I want to start with variable? Sure, let's start with variable. There's definition of a variable cost. So they're saying with the variable cost, if we increase our sales, if we increase production, our variable costs in total are going to go up. Okay. But if we look at a variable cost per unit, that stays constant. What? So direct materials, direct labor, those are variable costs. And I'm going to show you my really bad slide examples that are not in your PowerPoint slides, but you're going to be impressed with these. Not really. Okay. Here's my example. That's right. I slapped on a picture of a pizza. Okay. And use a little graph. So let's say you have a Domino's or some sort of pizza restaurant, store, company, I don't know. And we're looking at cheese on the pizza. So cheese on the pizza, that's going to be a direct material of making that product, right? And let's say about each pizza has $1 worth of cheese. It's a direct material, it goes on every pizza. There's $1 worth of cheese on every pizza. So this meets the definition of a variable cost. So per pizza, we have $1 worth of cheese, okay? So per unit, per pizza, there's $1 worth of cheese on every single pizza. Easy? Okay, what happens if we sell more pizzas? So your variable costs in total. So if I start selling 100 pizzas, 200 pizzas, 300 pizzas, what will my cheese cost be? I've got $1 of cheese in every pizza. If I sell 100 pizzas, my cheese cost is going to be $100. What if I sell 500 pizzas? Each pizza has $1 worth of cheese. My cheese cost in total is going to be 500. If I sell 1,000 pizzas, $1 worth of cheese on each one, my cheese cost in total is going to be $1,000. So as I sell more, produce more, my total cheese cost goes up. Per unit, per pizza, it's always $1. So it has to meet both of those definitions to be a variable cost. So think direct materials, think direct labor. Those are pretty much going to be your variable costs. Okay, fixed costs. Here we go. Definition of a fixed cost. It's the flip of the variable. It is exactly the opposite. So it's a cost that in total stays the same. Okay. And then if you had to talk about it on a per unit basis, it's actually going to go down per unit as you produce or sell more. The easiest way to think of a fixed cost is the total amount stays the same. Okay. So examples of this, let's go back to the pizza. We've got a pizza store. I'm not even gonna say restaurant. So our fixed cost in total. So let's say we have a pizza store, we're selling pizzas, people come up to the window, take them away, maybe we deliver them, I don't know. So the rent on our store is $1,000 a month, okay? So $1,000 a month, that's our monthly rent. So in total, our monthly rent stays constant, stays at $1,000. And they'll talk about within a relevant range. So as long as you're in this one store, that's going to be your rent. If you open up another store, obviously your rent goes up. But within that relevant range of one store, our rent's $1,000 a month. It doesn't change. In total, it stays constant. What about it per unit if we wanted to break it out per pizza? Okay, so we're paying $1,000 a month. And if we only sell one pizza that month, the rent per pizza, so if you take the rent cost divided by one pizza, that was $1,000 of rent for that one pizza. So clearly that shouldn't be your business plan. Let's sell one pizza this month. That would be really bad. What if I sell 1,000 pizzas? So if I sell 1,000 pizzas, my monthly rent is still 1,000. What is it per pizza? So take your rent divided by the number of pizzas. So $1,000 of rent divided by 1,000 pizzas. Now my rent is just $1 per pizza. So per unit, it will actually go down as you sell more. So if I only sell one pizza, that rent is all being assigned to the one pizza. If I sell 1,000 pizzas, I'm splitting that rent out over all the pizzas. Now it's only about $1 a pizza. Okay. So it has to meet both parts of the definition to be considered a fixed or a variable cost. Somewhere here, they have a nice little, here we go. This summarizes it. And then, of course, we're gonna do an exercise where you get to put this into practice. And a mixed cost is gonna be a cost that has a combination of the two. Okay, so mixed cost has a combination of the two. All righty. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do an exercise. We're gonna do exercise 1-17. And 1-17. We've got a list of 10 different costs here for different businesses. And we're gonna do two things. We're gonna say if it's a variable or fixed cost. And then also, is it a product or a period cost? So do what we did on Tuesday, you know, if it's a product cost, which product cost is it? If it's a period cost, which period cost is it? And then say if it's variable or fixed. So I will let you guys ponder those for a few minutes. So make sure you do both, say if it's variable or fixed, and then also say if it's product or period. Then you could say specifically which product cost or which period cost it is, that might help with the classification.
So everyone comes now. Some burgers, they're one possible total per hamburger that stays the same. And anytime you identify it's direct material. Yeah, that looks good. Is it? Yeah, yeah. Not necessarily like a sales commission, but variable, so if you sell. So the salary would be fixed. If it was a salary person, it would still be fixed. Oh, it's worth it. Okay. Oh, no, yeah. Well, for direct materials, they would be very, also direct labor. But they wasn't that impacted. That probably seems price for sale, maybe it's a shot. Are you okay with the product this period? Okay, they want you to. So good, I'm just checking the first couple of words. Anyone need help with any of them? And the whole insurance. Yeah, that's really factory. So. Still. Administrative sale. Right. Yep, and they were both key things. Doing good. Yeah, and I'll call you up and have you guys. Oh, no. Yeah, okay. How we go? Working on it. All right. How's it going? Battle. Okay. Is there tricky? Is there something that's like, you know? So anything with the factory would be part of the tax costs. And then outside of the factory would be your non-commission side. So one of the product will look This correlated. So it's like honest. You could correlate to okay. So, you know, some clicks on an ad or something like that, but that's still not saying the correct plot.
Okay, so let's go ahead, take a look at these, see what you've got. All right, brave volunteers today, right? That's what we're gonna have. How about number one? The hamburger buns, kind of like cheese on a pizza. What do you have?
Variable.
Yes, variable, and then is it product or period?
Product.
Yep. So that's a direct material, it's a product cost, and it's going to be variable. All right, what do we have for number two? Advertising, what do we think? What is it? Variable or fixed? How about that? Fixed, yeah. How would we classify it? Period, specifically selling. So, advertising, generally you're spending a set amount, like we're gonna spend $500 this month on advertising. It's not a direct correlation to your sales, so you can't like tie it specifically to increase in sales. I mean, you're hoping it drives an increase, but that may not be the case. Okay, apples. So we're making cans of fruit. Apples are in those cans of fruit. So is that variable or fixed? Variable? Yes. It's a specifically what kind of cost? It's product cost, it's a direct material. So cans of fruit that have apples in them, so our apple is a direct material. The same cost goes into each one. As we sell more, our costs are going to keep going up, so that's variable. Shipping the product to our customers. How do we classify shipping costs of our goods? It's period. It's selling if you want to get specific, and variable. So we're going to say it costs approximately the same amount to ship each container of our product. Yes, there's going to be some variances due to geographic location, but approximately the same shipping costs. So if we ship more goods to our customers, our shipping cost goes up, okay, but per box or per container, about the same. How about that insurance? Is it variable or fixed? It's going to be fixed. So again, that relevant range, you know, within a certain level of production, that insurance cost is going to be fixed, same amount every month. It's insurance for the factory. So was it product or period? I think I hear it. Product costs because it's insurance for the factory. Okay. And then the next insurance, so we know that it's got to be fixed. And this time it was insurance for corporate headquarters. So what do we say on that one? Period. Non-manufacturing costs, admin. If there are salespeople there, you could have said it's selling as well. Number 7. What was number 7? Okay, salary of a supervisor overseeing production of printers at Ricoh. So supervisor salary, variable or fixed? Fixed. So a salary is indicating, you know, they make so much a year, every month, every week. It's the same paycheck that they're getting. Okay, so that's fixed. Is this person at the factory? They are. Okay, they're a supervisor at the factory. So it's going to be a product cost. If you want to get more specific, it would be a manufacturing overhead, because supervisor wouldn't be hands-on making it, but because they're a supervisor at the factory, that's going to be overhead. All right. Stop me if you have questions. Let me just move it all the way down here. Whoops. You didn't see that, right? Okay. Number 8, commissions paid to automobile salespeople. So commissions means every time they sell a car, maybe we're giving the salesperson $1,000 or something. So every car they sell, we're gonna pay them $1,000. So is that variable or fixed? Constant per unit, but if they sell more cars, we're gonna pay out more in commissions, so that's variable. Commissions to salespeople, product or period? Period, it's a selling cost. So variable, be careful, it was the same amount per vehicle, but we'll pay out more in commissions if they sell more. That's the point of the commission, we want them to sell more. Okay, depreciation of factory lunchroom facilities at a GE plant. I don't know if you remember depreciation from 201, let's say it's straight line depreciation, which means it's the same amount every month. So is that variable or fixed? Fixed, hopefully, we're all saying fixed. It's for factory equipment, so is it product or period? Product, okay, and manufacturing overhead. Yeah.
So you said, sorry, you said for depreciation, so
If like, an activity-based depreciation, could be considered a variable cost because you have so much depreciation per like hour that you use the equipment. We're just gonna assume it's like straight line where it's the same amount every single. So whenever you see depreciation, it's gonna be fixed. Last one, steering wheels installed in Tesla electric vehicles. What type of cost is it, product or period? Product, specifically a direct material, and we all know, because we've done these exercises, that product costs, direct materials specifically, are always gonna be variable, right? Yep. All right, let me show all of them. Get it all on one page, maybe. Okay, questions on any of them? Oh yeah, and you can take a picture. This is when you could use your phone and take a picture. I'll try to get out of it. Okay, we're gonna do another exercise. I know this one is in your homework. You do have classification problems in your homework, one or two of them, you know, where you have to say, is it product period, maybe specifically which one, and then if it's variable or fixed. So obviously there are assignments in your homework, which is due tonight, that you're going to see something similar. But we're gonna go ahead and do exercise 1-4, which is almost identical to one that you have in your homework, which I think was exercise 1-11. But we're gonna do exercise 1-4. So let me put that up, and it makes me sad. It's on 2 different pages. Hold on. Sorry, I was trying to find it where I had it all on one page, but I didn't bring that with me. Oh, here it is. Nope, I lied. Okay, here we go. Let me show you the instructions on the first page. Let's look at that first. We'll want to jot down a little bit of information. Can you see it now? Can you read it in the back? A little fuzzy. Okay. So we're gonna be an Espresso Express, a coffee stand in the mall. We've got fixed weekly expenses at the coffee stand of $1,200. So maybe that's rent for the stand, rent of equipment, insurance costs, but they're saying our fixed cost for the month is $1,200. And you should write this down, because I'm not gonna flip back to this page. So your fixed cost for the month, the week is $1,200. And they're saying the variable cost per cup of coffee being served is 22 cents a cup. The water, the cup, the coffee beans, 22 cents a cup, something like that. So variable cost per cup, write that down, 22 cents a cup. All right, now I'm gonna flip it. All right.
I was just gonna write it down. You please get that.
No, I'm kidding. Okay. On the next page, they're going to ask for what their variable costs are gonna be, fixed costs are gonna be per unit and in total at various sales levels. You know, what if we sell this many cups of coffee? What are our costs gonna be? What if we sell this many cups of coffee? What are our costs gonna be? And we can do that if we're able to identify the costs as either variable or fixed. So, can I flip? Okay. All righty, here we go. So here's what they're asking for. We're gonna even take it a step further. Oh, shoot. You know what? Okay, so we're gonna fill in this grid here. Because we're super smart and we know how variable and fixed costs work. Yes. Okay, so they want you to fill this in for different levels of coffee sales. So in the first column, they're saying, what if we sold 2,000 cups of coffee this week? What are our costs gonna be? So the first two lines want to know what they would be in total. So fixed costs, when we're selling 2,000 cups of coffee, what is our fixed cost gonna be? What did they tell us back on page 1 that I've already flipped? Fixed costs was $1,200 each week. Okay. What do we know about fixed costs? In total, it stays the same, even if we sell more or sell less. So how much fixed costs are we gonna have at 2,100 cups of coffee being sold? $1,200. How much would we have in fixed costs at 2,200 cups? 1,200. Okay. Easy, right? Okay. So up top is the in total information. Down below, we're gonna write in the variable cost per cup. Okay, so let's fill in the variable cost. So what they told us about the variable cost, how much did they say it was per cup of coffee for the variable costs? 22 cents. I'm gonna write that down here. So the variable cost per cup was 22 cents. I need to get a calculator. Okay, so how much will our variable cost be in total, the number that they're asking for up here, if we sell 2,000 cups? So if we sell 2,000 cups, each cup costs 22 cents. How much would our variable cost be in total? So 2,000 cups of coffee being sold, each one costs us 22 cents to make it. How much is that? This is where you'd get your calculator out and you would say 2,000 times 22 cents, and you're telling me it would be how much? $440. So 2,000 cups, each one costs 22 cents a cup. That's 440 bucks. How about when we're selling 2,100 cups of coffee? 2,100, each cup costs you 22 cents. So variable cost per unit is gonna stay constant at the 22 cents. You can fill that in all the way across. But how much variable costs will we have when we're selling 2,100 cups? Cost is 22 cents a cup, so how much will that be in total for the variable cost. That was supposed to be a box. How'd I do? What do we get? 462. So we're taking the 2,100 cups of coffee, multiplying it by the 22 cents. Our variable cost is gonna be 462. 2,200 cups of coffee, cost is 22 cents a cup. So what's our variable cost in total here? 484. Everyone okay with where we're getting that number? So you take the activity that you're at, multiply it by the cost per unit, so 2,200 times 22 cents, you get 484 in variable costs. Okay, they're also asking you to fill in what's your total cost. So total cost, just add the 12. You've got $1,200 in fixed costs, 440 in variable costs. So what, 1,640? So now we're just adding those two together to see what their total cost would be when they sell 2,000 cups. Do the same thing for the 2,100 cups and the 2,200 cups. What's their total cost at those sales levels? So if you know the cost is variable or fixed, you can figure out what your costs are at all different sales levels. Whether the sales go up or go down, you would still be able to figure out what your costs are gonna be. Are we okay with that? Okay, so last thing I'm asking you to do, but they didn't actually ask you to do it on this problem, is figure out what the fixed cost is per cup of coffee. So how do you calculate the fixed cost per cup? That means divide. So all we have to do is take the fixed cost divided by the number of cups. So in this first column, our fixed costs were $1,200. Our number of cups was 2,000. So take 1,200 divided by 2,000 to figure out what your fixed cost is per cup. So 1,200 divided by 2,000 cups. And what did we get? 60 cents. So we're taking the fixed costs, dividing it by the number of cups, it's 60 cents per cup. So if we want to say what our cost per cup is, it's 82 cents a cup, 22 cents in variable, 60 cents in fixed costs. Okay, at sales of 2,100 cups, what's your fixed cost per cup? So take your fixed costs, divided by the number of cups, round to 2 decimals. Do that for the rest of them. Fill in the boxes. Anyone need help? Okay, that's what I got. Check my math.
When we add them, we got the 1879, that's called the, is that called the average?
I would say total cost per cup. Total cost per cup.
And then the 60 cent is just the fixed cost.
Yeah. So this is just fixed cost per cup, 1,200 divided by the cups. And the 22 is the variable cost per cup, and we're just adding it together. Very good. Any questions on the numbers? So just one more time, fixed cost per cup, you take the fixed cost, which is 1,200. Divide it by the number of cups. So in this column, it was 2,100 cups of coffee, so take $1,200 in fixed cost divided by 2,100 cups. You should get 57 cents if you rounded the same way I did. And then the total cost per cup of coffee, 22 cents plus 57 cents in fixed costs, you get 79 cents a cup. And so what you should notice with your fixed cost per cup, just like we're talking about rent at that pizza store, it goes down. So as you sell more cups of coffee, you're spreading those fixed costs out over more cups of coffee. So the cost per cup will go down. Okay. Average cost, if you just take the 1,640 divided by the 2,000, I mean, that would be like the average. Well, that'd be the cost per cup. I don't know if we can say really that's the average, it depends on your status. Oops.
You don't put the average cost. Just.
Oh, that's what they were looking for with the, sorry. That's the 82 cents, the 79 cents, and the 77. Sorry, that's what that is. So they were saying average cost per cup. There we go. Thank you. Average cost per cup at that sales level. If that helps. All right. Are we good? Do we need a short break? Let's take a 2-minute stretchy break or whatever you want to do. Give yourself a hot second. All right. Okay, everyone get to check their phones, make sure everything's okay in the world and nothing super interesting hit Snapchat or Instagram or whatever you use. I don't know. Okay, I do want to pull out the syllabus again. Oh my goodness. Okay, so one of the things that you have in your syllabus for an assignment is what's called a career builder assignment. Yes, there's more information on the next page. Where I want you to attend a professional presentation throughout the semester, at least 2 of them, and do a short summary of that. So one of the organizations where we'll bring accounting, finance, data analytics professionals in to speak to classes is through Beta Alpha Psi. I will start posting information about those presentations, but those would count as an accounting presentation to attend. Also coming up, I had on the syllabus the business career fair, which is going to be on September 17th, which is on a Wednesday. I do want everyone to attend, and you can do your summary and submit it for a career builder. So I did have on there attendance is mandatory unless you have some dire reason why you would not be able to attend. So that's Wednesday, September 17th. 1 to 4 o'clock. No, you don't have to be there the entire time. So it is a career fair, but we also have professionals in various business industries who will be like in a career spotlight section. So if you're like, I'm just a sophomore and I'm not interviewing yet, why do I have to go? You can at least go and talk to, you know, a real estate professional, someone in insurance, a manager, a human resource person, a marketing person, and get some information about their professional career. So we'll have the firms that are looking to hire for interns and jobs, and then we'll also have that career spotlight section where you can just go and have a conversation with professionals in different areas. So whatever you're comfortable with, that's in the grand ballroom. I do ask if you can come in what business casual at least, so preferably not gym shorts, yoga pants. You know, if you could just, you know, put on slacks, a skirt, and dress pants, something, even if it's a polo shirt or something like that. Just something a little bit nicer, even if you're just doing the career spotlight, just to show yourself in the best way possible. Yeah, so that's going on, and you can use that as a career builder. And so the other times when we're going to have professional speakers, Beta Alpha Psi is a group. It really started out as just accounting and finance majors, but it's expanded. There's data analytics majors. We're gonna have presentations on Monday evenings, most Monday evenings, 5 to 6 o'clock. So we're gonna have our introductory meeting next Monday, 5 to 6 in this classroom. And typically, to become a full-fledged member, you have to be accounting, finance, data analytics, or a few other ones. You have to be like had an upper level class. So you needed to have had like 341 or 371 or something like that. 460. Name number changes. However, we're going to do something new this year where we have it open to all business majors. To just be recognized as a candidate, like a business candidate within the organization. So we'll have some guidelines for those people as well. So just to kind of open it up a little bit more. Sometimes it will be accounting people presenting, but other times it'll be broader based. I mean, we had career services come and talk about what they offer, and there'll be other presentations as well. So I encourage you all to come next Monday, learn more about it. we will have this little avenue for like reduced requirements to become like a business candidate member. We always have food, okay, and there's socials if you want to participate in that. So if you want to learn more, that will be next Monday. And Kayla, if you came to class the first week when I wasn't here, Kayla Turner, she'll be heading that up. So anyway, check that out next Monday. All right, but I will let you know about presentations that we have. So we do have a schedule set up. But I'm not going to overwhelm you with information, but I do want you to make sure you've marked on your calendars the career fair, career spotlight, which is September 17th, 1 to 4 p.m. And again, you don't have to come and stay the entire time. Okay. Questions? Okay. All right. It's more sporadic. And if you're not like eligible to join, if you're gonna do kind of like, I'm a business member, the requirements will be less, so you wouldn't need to come to like 8 presentations. You could come to 4 of them and then get recognized as at the end of the semester as participating in that organization. Okay, what are we doing now? Okay, we are gonna finish this chapter. Hallelujah. Here we go. Perhaps you recognize these. It's a financial statement. What is it called? It starts with an I.
Income statement.
Income statement. Some people might say profit and loss statement. That's okay. All right. So the one over here on this side that they're labeling the traditional income statement, this would have been an income statement that we did last year or last semester in 201. The basic premise of an income statement is revenue minus your expenses. So, you know, whatever we're doing for our revenue source, sales revenue, service revenue, we're going to report that. And hopefully the costs of generating that revenue, our expenses, are less than our revenue. So revenue minus expenses, if we get a positive number, we have net income. Negative number, we have a net loss. The traditional format, they're showing it to you for someone that's a merchandiser or a manufacturer, where we have a cost of goods sold. So sales minus cost of goods sold equals gross margin, or we probably said gross profit last year. We'll just use that interchangeably. And then we subtract our selling and administrative expenses, and that equals your net operating income. And if you go more in accounting, there is stuff below that net operating income, but we're just going to stop at net operating income. So we are going to be working a lot with income statements. They're making noises at me. But the income statement that we're going to use mostly in this class is called a contribution approach income statement or contribution format income statement. And it looks like this over here. So we take our sales revenue or service well, it's going to be sales revenue, our sales revenue, and then we subtract just our variable expenses. So things that are variable, and now we know what that is, right? So cost of goods sold, variable selling, variable administrative. We're going to subtract those from our revenue, and that's a new terminology called contribution margin. We're going to work a bunch with contribution margin. And then you subtract all your fixed costs. So fixed selling, fixed administrative. Subtract those from your contribution margin to get your net operating income. This is the statement that we're going to use internally for managerial accounting for managers. We're going to use it to do a lot of calculations to make some good decisions. So contribution approach form or contribution formatted income statement. This is what we're going to use a lot in this class. Okay, so we're going to try to remember how to do those in an exercise. So we've taken some good notes, maybe. Or if you want to take a picture, we're going to do, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do exercise 1-6. Everyone got that down okay? Okay, so let me pop up exercise 1-6. It's at the bottom of the page. The instructions, which are on the next page, tells you to prepare the income statement using the traditional approach and an income statement using the contribution approach. So we're gonna do the income statement 2 times. And they made it even more fun. I'll let you kind of read over the information and process it. Okay, you might notice, they just don't come right out and give you the numbers. You have to generally do a little bit of calculation. Starting with the traditional sales revenue, hopefully you've got that on your page, something going, right? How much is our sales revenue? We sold how many units? How much did we sell them for? $30. Okay, so we're gonna have to calculate that. Smidgy smidge. Not too bad. Okay, so sales revenue, 600,000. If we're doing the traditional, then the next thing we want to say is minus cost of goods sold. Do they tell us cost of goods sold? No. Believe it or not, we did have to calculate this at some point in time back in 201. They give us the information to do it, but it's probably really testing our brains this morning.
Is this inventory?
Yep. Yep, you got it. So they gave us a beginning inventory and ending. They also gave us merchandise purchases. So here we go. This super fun calculation. Beginning inventory, they said was $24,000. And then we want to add to that everything that we purchased. So if we were doing an inventory T account, we've got this beginning inventory of 24,000. They went out and they purchased 180,000. So that increases their inventory. So I'm going to add those two numbers together. What? And that is 204,000. Okay. And that represents everything we had in our inventory, everything we had available for sale. So we had 204,000 available for sale. Then they didn't tell us what they sold, but they did say what they ended up with. So they're telling us what they didn't sell. So if we subtract our ending inventory, which is what we didn't sell, from everything that we had available to sell, that's going to give us our cost of goods sold. So we actually had to do a little calculation to get cost of goods sold. So beginning inventory plus the purchases that we made, minus the ending inventory, which is what we didn't sell, that tells us what we sold, or the cost of what we sold. So we had to do this whole thing in order to come up, excuse me, that 160,000 for cost of goods sold. So if I go back to my income statement, I'm now gonna say, okay, cost of goods sold, 160,000. And that equals my gross margin, gross profit. So sales revenue minus cost of goods sold, that's gonna be your gross margins. I'll leave this up for just a second, then I'll pull it out of the way. You wanna take a picture? Okay. So I'll let you finish with the traditional. So then you want to subtract all of your selling and administrative if you're doing the traditional one first. So for selling, they're giving you a variable selling per unit. You got to multiply by the number of units that they're selling. And then they also give you a fixed selling. So you want to subtract all of your selling. So you got to figure out how much is variable, how much is fixed. Subtract all of it. Do the same thing with the administrative. How much is variable, how much is fixed, subtract all of it to get the net income. Should end up with net income of 250,000. So then you subtract all of all the options. But this is crazy. Yep. Sorry, we're short on time. Let me just pop this up so you can see it before we head out today. Okay, so the traditional income statement we got to here, okay? And then we need to subtract all of our selling expenses. They had a variable selling, they had a fixed selling. So the variable was $4 a unit times 20,000 units. That would be 80,000 variable selling. They had 40,000 fixed. So it's a total selling expense of 120. do the same thing for the administrative costs. They had a variable administrative cost, $2 a unit, times the number of units being sold, 20,000, so that would be 40,000 in variable admin, plus the fixed, so that gives you 70,000 in total for the admin costs. So you want to take your gross margin, subtract your selling and administrative costs, which total to be 190. So 440 minus 190, and you should get net operating income of 250. Real quick, I'm going to show you the contribution approach income statement, so you have that for when you're doing your homework tonight. So contribution approach income statement. We're going to take our sales revenue, which is still $600,000, nothing different there. Then we want to subtract all of our variable expenses. So cost of goods sold, that 160,000 would be considered a variable cost. So you want to list that with your variable expenses. Then you want your variable selling, just the variable, and the variable admin. So all of your variable costs total 280. Take your sales revenue minus the 280, that equals your contribution margin of 320,000. And then lastly, subtract your fixed expenses. You had a fixed selling, a fixed administrative. Subtract those from your contribution margin, net operating income, 250,000. Okay, sorry, that was rushed at the end. Homework is due tonight. I'm gonna give you some information out in the announcements. There's one that I will get some questions about. If you have questions about this, I do have office hours this afternoon, so pop on up and see me. Okay, have a good day. See you.
I'm sure I have it, and you.
Oh, okay.
But,
yeah,
I wanted to let you know that on September 17th, I probably will have football that day.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm gonna be able to make it for.
Oh, just like practice?
Yeah.
Okay,
Start at 2, so I might be able to make it for like 30 minutes.
that's fine, perfect.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
your day around that.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Hey. Okay. Okay.
No idea.
Southeast Missouri, I think is what that is.
Maybe.
So,
Yeah. So, yeah, was it on Thursday, 9 AM?
Okay. So the assignments will be out on Western
Yeah.
Online. Oh, I need to turn this off, excuse me.